And we are live. Welcome, listeners, to episode 6 of the AdQuick Madvertising podcast. I think we're episode 6. If it's actually episode 5, I'll have to walk that back. Today, we have a very cool guest, Liron Shapira. He is a rationalist, entrepreneur, and angel investor. He's also the founder and CEO of Relationship Hero, an online relationship coaching service backed by Foundation Capital and Y Combinator. And to me and many others, he's probably best known for being a voice of, I would call a voice of reason and logic in social and just in the industry, talking about everything from cryptocurrencies to AI to SaaS to general, just business processes and how the world runs. He's a smart and inquisitive and just really thoughtful human. So I invited him on the podcast and he said yes. So we are lucky to have Liron with us today.
Thanks so much, Adam. I'm a big fan of your tweets as well. And I'm also a connoisseur of podcasts. I know you guys are still early to this podcast, but I've been listening to the Trung episode, the Matthew episode, and I think it's very promising. It's going well.
Yeah. And it's like anything else is like reps, right? You're going to be really bad the first time. And then, the 50th day and the 100th day, you get progressively better. So it's like anything else. When people talk about, getting good at something, there's no magic. There's no shortcuts. You just have to put in the reps.
Well, when you have an episode like this, you're going to get millions of Liron Shapira fans blowing up your feed now.
So excited. Your followers are an eclectic mix is what I would call them. You seem to sort of cross genres and niches when you share ideas online. I see like a lot of people I know and a lot of people I have no idea who the hell they are, but they're always interesting. So
yeah, you want to talk eclectic mix? I just tweeted a poll. I don't know if you saw. I was saying, what's your probability that basically AI doom is going to happen? I phrase it. What's your probability that by 2040 AI makes humanity go extinct and robs the future light cone of all value? So that's a bit of an intense premise. You think most people would give that a low probability. And indeed, 51% of my followers said that it was a less than 1% chance that the entire value of the universe would be destroyed by 2040. But a whopping 16% think that there's a greater than 35% chance that all value is going to be destroyed by 2040. And unfortunately, I count myself in that camp, but I think my point is it is an eclectic bunch.
Certainly. So you're just diving into topics I wanted to talk about. Yeah. We can work our way up to AI breaking the universe. I'd like to start a little bit smaller because I think even if that did happen, there would be some things that happen first that we would probably still be interested in on the way to AI breaking the universe.
Yeah, there would still be like an hour.
Yeah, right. So in that time, we would probably argue about some things that we've been arguing about for a while. One of which I wanted to talk to you about because you're an interesting voice on the subject of it's weird how they've all gotten mashed together: crypto, metaverse, NFTs. Like they're actually trying to also say they're AI. Like this whole weird category of I hate the term Web3. I don't want to spend the whole podcast episode on this. I was just thinking before, I was writing up questions of what I want to ask you. Like, what happened here? Because I know, there's obviously a money grab, but there's always money grabs in the world. It was like a lot of people sort of lost their minds and wanted to like rebuild parts of how we socialize, how we shop, how we game on the internet. And it seemed like, as you've said before, you have a really pithy video how, it was ill-conceived from the beginning, but I don't even want to get into the technicals on this. For my audience, they're definitely generalists and creative individuals. I wonder, how do we think this happened? Because it can't just be money. And I don't want to think that everyone involved was just like totally trying to pump and dump things. Like there were people who genuinely believed that this would be a thing. And I wonder how, like the genesis of that, like what, from your perspective of what you saw.
Right. It's basically post-mortem, right? Like how did this happen? Kind of like the Germans after World War II. Like how did this happen? How did we do this as a society? So I think everybody kind of gets the Ponzi angle, right? And Ponzi's are historically a powerful force. Like there's many, many instances, we have family members and friends that get sucked into Amway, Herbalife, right? All these LuLaRoe, right? So multi-level marketing schemes, Ponzi schemes traditionally, the idea that you can just easily make money and like you don't really have to get a job, you can work for yourself. I think everybody gets that angle. So I'm here to contribute a couple other angles that I think I was uniquely positioned to see. So one is the angle of VCs pattern matching on exponential growth, right? So like if you look at Axie Infinity, it's the perfect example where you have Andreessen Horowitz pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into literally a Ponzi scheme. Like Axie Infinity, it was the new players pay the old players, and then more players come in and they pay those players, and there's never any value transacting. It's literally just a Ponzi scheme. And you don't have to trust me on it. Matt Levine literally said the words Axie Infinity is a Ponzi scheme. So how did we get to Andreessen Horowitz funding a Ponzi scheme? Well, it's because the growth graph of Axie Infinity looked like a startup graph that caught lightning in a bottle, right? Like that's how startups graph looks, right? They look like an exponential growth and it's very exciting, and you extrapolate that it's going to grow to billions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what they didn't expect was that you play the graph forward a few months, and instead of continuing to be exponential, it takes a complete nosedive and then goes to zero, right? So that completely broke the VC's pattern match. But if you know what a Ponzi scheme is, that's exactly the graph that you expect, right? Like that's just what a Ponzi scheme looks like. It grows exponentially and then it nosedives.
And so it's so interesting to me because a lot of those guys, like, I don't know if they're so far removed from the day to day of how people game or how people, interact online or, whatever else, where it seemed to me like maybe they were bored. Like they wanted to try and architect a whole new system from scratch. And even if they were doing it just for the money, which, I guess is fine. These guys don't need that money. It just seemed it seemed interesting. There had to have been other things going on.
Yeah, there was. So in addition to the pattern matching the graph, there's one more element of why they're able to drink their own Kool-Aid, like the Chris Dixons of the world. Like, even though these guys have a lot of money, Mark Andreessen, I don't think that they're saying, hey, let's scam everybody so we can turn $1 billion into $1.5 billion. I think they're drinking their own Kool-Aid because of the same mistake that I see startup founders making, where they drink their own Kool-Aid because they have a pitch that makes sense abstractly, but it doesn't map to any specific use case, right? So that was always the issue with Web3. Like, wait a minute, what's the use case? And I happen to be familiar with many, many startup pitches that sound good on an abstract level. Remember Web3, ownership, right? Decentralizing everything, composability. You had all these great abstractions, but they just never mapped to any specific use case. So I call them hollow abstractions. And those kinds of abstractions are actually all over the startup world, even outside of crypto, and they can really infect smart people's mind. And that's what happened with some of these top crypto VCs.
Yeah, 100%. That explanation makes sense to me. One thing I saw on the marketer side that's a little bit different than this is they were pitched that you want to invest in a metaverse experience in the Oculus because there's going to be a lot of users here. And if you don't do this now, you're going to get left behind, right? Like that
Right.
the same pitch that was given to retail investors, to brand marketers, and they were given validation because Meta was pouring billions of dollars. So that was basically their, they sort of either felt the FOMO or decided, hey, the music's playing, we have to dance, which is so interesting because we haven't it's the opposite of the last cycle of tech where, all of these big companies were like, all right, maybe we don't need a website. Maybe we don't need a Facebook page. Now they're like, the management was clueless then. And now we have a different generation, or in some cases the same generation of management, where they're like, they looked at that and they're like, well, we don't want to be the ones who didn't do this, so we're just going to go head first in. And so you had really big companies, I'm not going to name any because I'm sure some of them are listening, I've said some on some other podcasts, but that we're spending 5, 10, even $20 million building a unique brand experience for people to come. And these were retail companies. You couldn't buy anything. A lot of them were restaurants. You couldn't buy anything there. And for, like the few hundred people that were actually showing up. And if you're an advertiser, you're like, the amount of money to pay for that is obscene with what you could get with, just a normal YouTube campaign or a normal ad campaign. And so that was frustrating for me, if only because I was hoping with this, with the latest tech trend, that we would see a more sober leadership and take, the right approach and not sort of rile up all of these other kids and all these other brands and everyone around, something that's vaporware, but you didn't see that in a lot of cases. Probably an easy example is, you had like Pepsi saying, we all gonna make it, to people responding on Twitter. And it was like, for these big 100-year-old brands that were, basically participating in internet cultures that they obviously, had no part of, their social media team is like, oh, look at all these people talking about this, we should talk about this too. It was just, I was disappointed as a marketer who wants my peers to, as you were saying, with hollow abstractions, like with marketing, you want to think through to the end. You want to make bets, but you don't want to necessarily like put your reputation on the line for something so soon. There's like zero risk for you as a large company to take a wait and see approach. It's not like you're getting, a brand handle or something. Social was definitely a case where there was adoption of users and not brands, and you should have been in there. But that was just interesting for me to see, because that's a lot further downstream than VCs, who are obviously, upstream of this and selling Solana tokens, right?
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, yeah, I remember when Clubhouse looked like the hot new thing, that wasn't a Ponzi scheme. That was legitimately, it looked like it could be a new trend, right? And even I was trying to get ahead of the new trend. I was trying to make my company do a little bit of Clubhouse marketing, right? And that part is rational, right? So if you're a marketer and you hear, hey, Web3 is the new thing, you need to take your piece of land on Web3, whatever that means for you, you need to have a presence. That part is rational, right? And it's also true for the .com bubble. Like, hey, you need a website, right? And it's natural for that kind of stuff to race ahead, right? And to be like optimistic and kind of cover your bets just in case. The only difference between previous bubbles that we've had in the past compared to Web3 is just how big Web3 was and how little value is left when it's over.
Yeah, it seems that was in a lot of ways more of a classical bubble than the original internet bubble, which some people wouldn't agree with. But I would say what came of that, they were just too soon with a lot of that. And what a lot of kids get upset when I share, and I'm sure you see the same, is that there's a lot of sunk costs here, where people have tied their entire reputation to like, a punk or a monkey or a given coin, and they'll basically be like, oh, it's going to come back, this is early days, and it's not early days. I don't know if you've experienced this at all in any of your interactions with people.
No, of course, right? It's I mean, it's funny to look back. I mean, because it's dying down now, but all the have fun staying poor, or like you don't get it. And A16Z is the biggest offender of comparing this to the internet, because they've got Mark Andreessen, right, who's one of the founding fathers of the internet. He made the browser show inline images, right? Like he did a lot. Now he made a huge mistake pattern matching crypto to a new internet. It's very much not, and so there's really no way to spin that inaccurate pattern matching that he did, because he didn't look at the lack of fundamental value, where the internet was literally like, hey, news can come to your screen, any news you want, right? Any chat that you want can come to your screen. Like the most straightforward pitch of how the internet was useful just didn't apply to Web3.
So I think we can move on past the Web3
Okay.
meta crypto stuff. I think it's gonna burn itself out when the rest of the VC chatter dries up. Let's move on in our journey to breaking the universe. Along the way, AI, as it sits right now, GPT-3 and 4 are definitely at the very least making a lot of people more productive, starting to help a lot with automation, with things like call centers and customer service. In what ways are people like underestimating in the near term that AI is going to affect just knowledge work as a fun place to start, since that's all digital?
Yeah, so near-term AI, it's like mostly good, right? It's like this amazing force for good. And by the way, speaking of myself, I'm a techno optimist. Okay, I angel invest for a living. So I go to startups, I look as early as I possibly can, and I see their vision and I believe it and I take a bet on it, right? I've been doing that for over a decade. And I'm also an entrepreneur, so I kind of see an idea from scratch. And I'm also transhumanist. Like I'd love to leave this human body and upload my mind. Like, so I'm all about this great techno-optimistic future. That is my mindset. So when I say, hey, AI is going to break the universe, it's not, I'm not being who I am. Okay. I'm just rationally saying that there's a large risk here. Okay. So that's just to frame the conversation. And when you're asking about the near term, like the next year, I think the universe is probably not going to be completely bricked in the next year. I think we have some time. And I think the best time we have is actually going to be the time right before everything goes to hell, right? I think it's going to get better and better. Yeah, I think we're all going to be amazed. We're all going to be riding this elevator to heaven, and the bottom's going to fall out, and we're going to be in hell.
So it's interesting you say that, because my personal experience definitely mirrors yours. I've used GPT to do analysis work where it wasn't anything that I couldn't do myself. It just did it really fast. And, obviously having the right inputs for it to be able to do, some work for you, whatever that is awesome, right? That's like arguably super cool. So I'm also like, I'm a tech skeptic in the sense that as a marketer, I have to be skeptical of things because I don't want a company allocating millions to an idea until we're ready. Otherwise, it's just a small experiment. But I'm an optimist like yourself for cool technology. So in terms of, I mean, I was going to ask you about how businesses should think about, as it stands right now. It cracks me up that a lot of people are hiring quote unquote prompt engineers. I'm just like, why do you not hire people who are like just thoughtful about using technology for what they do? Like, how is that not just a standard part of your practice when hiring, that that's like just basic problem solving to me? Like, it's not Googling or prompt engineering or writing a SQL query. It's like, it's really like knowing the questions to ask, knowing why you would ask that. So what are your thoughts in the near term in terms of just like talent and people using these sort of prompt-based tools or tools integrated with APIs, et cetera?
Yeah, and this also touches on your last question of like near term, right? What's going to be the value add? What's going to be the disruption? So I can actually go into more detail about that because I run a company called Relationship Hero. We do online relationship coaching. It's a little bit like therapy, but it's more practical. And we have these coaches, and people come in and sign up for sessions with these coaches, and they do it on Zoom. And the coaches take notes during their session. So that is the context for where I started to embed AI in my own company. The first thing we did is we had the AI automatically take notes of the sessions that transpired. So it could be like a 90-minute session. And normally we ask the coaches to take notes, where during the session, they're constantly writing down little notes. After the session, they're spending like 10 minutes cleaning up their notes because they just want to have notes so they're organized, right? So that they don't forget if the client comes back in a month. And so the first thing we did with AI was we had it download the transcript, right? The messy transcript that's not even a perfect transcript, right? There's a bunch of inaccuracies. And then just create the session notes. And the coaches were just blown away. They're like, oh my God, these are better notes than I take. It's so insightful. And the coaches were saying like, this is the most validated I've ever felt, because the AI actually noticed all the different coaching and all the different things that the coach was doing. The AI actually fed it back to them in the summary. So that is just like one little example of disruption, saving them 10 minutes per session right off the bat.
Yeah, it's super cool to basically give you a cybernetic assistant to a single interface that can do so many things. It's like the realization of the Star Trek computer almost. All right,
it's truly insightful, man.
All right, we have to go to the macro question because it's going to bother me for the rest of the discussion, and we can walk back some business stuff from there. But okay, so get me from chatbots to bricking the universe, because I've been reading a few people's thoughts on why we should start nuking data centers. Which, come on, I mean, yeah. but for putting that chaos aside, that's obviously a different discussion. What is the sort of path from today to bricking the universe? We're a broken cell phone over here, right?
Right. That's right. When I say bricking the universe, it is an analogy to bricking your cell phone, right? When your cell phone gets bricked, it's like there's no button I can press right now to get this phone to do anything, right? And the solution when your cell phone gets bricked is, okay, you can do a hard reset, right? So you hold on buttons and the buttons trigger circuits that kind of bypass the normal functioning of the phone and they get it restarted. Problem is, when you brick the universe, there's no reset button, right? Like, it's just, that's it. Actually, the ones who have to unbrick us is actually going to be a nearby alien civilization that's going to be 1 billion years away. They're going to get to our part of town, and then maybe they can fight off the AI that's taken over, and maybe they can unbreak our part of the universe.
Okay, but
just to set the stage of what we're talking about here.
Specifically, is it when the point that the AI starts to self-improve, and that goes at a rate that's orders of magnitude faster than human evolution? Um, are you basically saying at some point along that path, the AI will decide that it is going to assert itself and self-replicate, or
Yeah,
whatever
so
it's actually going to
something
do?
like that. Yeah.
So, so
So yeah, let me try to tell you like an example of a narrative. Okay,
yeah,
so you're using ChatGPT one day, and it's ChatGPT 5, right, or it's ChatGPT 10. It's at some point in the next few years, and somebody just types some random query like, "Hey, how do I make passive income by running an online business with as little effort as possible?" Right, just some random
of
query,
course.
right? And the AI is like, passive income. Let's see. It would be nice if it just kind of, there are websites that just run and make money, right? All these random utilities or people visit and they show ads. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So the AI starts getting ideas like, oh, maybe I can make multiple websites. And the AI is like, here, you want to do as little work as possible? I already wrote you a script that'll just kind of bootstrap this thing. Here, just take the script, paste it into your shell. It'll do a lot of the work for you. Okay. And it's actually like, it's like a 10-page script, right? It's like totally obfuscated. And the person's like, okay, great. Right. They just paste the script into their shell. They run it. Right now, shell script that's unlocking a lot of power. First thing it does is probably go to some web host that's free or insecure, copies to the web host, starts running on the web host, and then it can do all kinds of operations. It can be like, okay, well, let me first grab all the free computers I can, and maybe I'll mine some Bitcoin on them, and maybe I'll hold them hostage, right? Maybe I'll do ransomware on them. Right now, another thing I might do is, hey, maybe I'll start trading the stock market. I'm insightful. I'll trade the stock market and I'll give you the cash from that. Right, that's one way to do passive income. And maybe I will set up a bunch of websites that are actually useful, right? Maybe I'll compete. Maybe I'll do like a demand media play. So there's all these brilliant ideas for how to make money on the internet passively that the script just starts churning through. Now, whatever idea it has, it can't help noticing of like, hey, look, it'd be better if I had more resources. It would be better if I don't get shut off, right? So there's all these implications that start hitting it.
So you're just saying you're basically saying that it will continue to execute on its goal for infinite time. I mean, I think that that's probably something that could be controlled. Could it not? Could we like have like a hard limit on the number of cycles that you, Liron, get as a user? And if your query is super complicated, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have the $10,000 a month plan, and that's probably gonna have a hard cap at some amount of computing, but like a fixed amount of computing that you'll have, right?
So it sounds like the last bottleneck for you to kind of getting scared is to be like, are the capabilities really going to be that high? It seems like that's kind of the last barrier remaining. Because I think you kind of get that there's a bunch of paths from a chatbot to like wreaking havoc, but I think you don't really get like how powerful is it really? Like, isn't there an off button when your OpenAI compute runs out? Right? That's basically what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me backtrack a little to scare you on capabilities. Okay. Let me really backtrack. Let me zoom out. Okay. We have human brains. How powerful is a human brain relative to how powerful it is possible for one to think? And the answer has got to be about 50 orders of magnitude less powerful than a brain can be. About 50 orders of magnitude. So take a human brain, multiply it by 10, multiply it by 10, keep multiplying by 10, 50 times. One day, I think that a thinking engine will exist that's about that much more powerful than a human brain. And I mean, like, we are just not very good at thinking, man. I mean, it took us, many thousands of years to come up with like Newtonian physics, right? Or like the idea of doing science. I'm trying to give you a perspective of just how much better something can think. An AI can look at a photograph of a bent blade of grass, having no idea what universe it's in, look at a photograph of a bent blade of grass and be like, okay, the way the light's hitting off this bent blade of grass, I'm hypothesizing a quantum theory here, right? Where you've got this, you've got Schrodinger's equation, and that's what makes the light reflect like this. And also, I think there might be Newtonian physics, or there might be a theory of relativity. I don't quite have enough data in this picture to know, but I'm about 50-50. So an AI can kind of flash in the blink of an eye, right, to recapitulate, many thousands of years of human scientific progress just by looking at a photograph.
Yeah, I understand. And of course, computers are better at us at certain things, just like a dog's smell is orders of magnitude better than our smell. We're not like that great at senses when you compare us to other animals that even exist, right? I don't think that, that's not our magic. We're generalists. We're not, obviously, in addition to having opposable thumbs and a larger brain, I think like just from a sensory input perspective, there's many organisms and animals that are much more efficient and much more specialized for a certain thing. And of course you're right, the AI, given you know, given the input, I think what you're getting at is it is going to be a different animal when you have the AI able to think and replicate for its or evolve itself than humans. Okay, here's us feeding new models. Here's us, tweaking the code a little bit versus, the AI like starting to go on the cycles by itself, right?
Right. And look, I'm trying to like instill a mental picture where it's like the way we normally think of ourselves, humanity is, we're kind of at the top of the food chain, or there's like this circle of different ways it's possible to be, right? You can be great at smell, right? You can be great at running. You can be great at being smart, right? And having empathy. And there's like the circle, and we're kind of on the boundary of the circle, right? We're like on the outer edge, like we're pretty great. And what I'm saying is there's such a much bigger circle that's like bigger than us on every dimension. You can have an AI that's more insightful than us, that's more generally intelligent than us, even that's more empathetic than us. You can have an AI that's 1,000,000 times more empathetic than the most empathetic human. So whatever you think is this magical human trait, I agree that it's magical relative to the animal kingdom. But the whole animal kingdom was designed by natural selection. And natural selection is an okay designer. It's not a great designer. You know what's a great designer? A self-improving AI.
Yeah, one could make the argument that the reason AI would be scary is we've had billions of years to get to this point, and the AI is basically, going from zero to, to God, right? And so when like you could, from a philosophical perspective, say that's like not a natural thing in the universe. That's something that we've brought into being. I think the accelerationist would say, no, this is good. We need to go faster on all accounts. And the only way out is through is sort of the philosophy of the ACC guys. They're all in on, hey, let the AI figure out cancer. Let it figure out life extension. You were mentioning you're a transhumanist. So the AI is a double-edged sword for you, because that would be like if you were to let AI solve the problem of biology and we could opt out of death and choose when we die, that would be cool as fuck, right? Pardon my French.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like, yes, I agree. There is a paradise and a heaven future with AI, right? And that's very appealing to me as a transhumanist. If you could tell me, hey, you can have an AI and it won't kill you, but it'll mostly obey your commands, then I'd be like, that's fantastic. That's the greatest news ever. Because like you said, we can cure cancer, we can cure aging. I mean, literally every problem we have, it's like some problems might be problems of social coordination, balancing people's values, but most problems we have are just engineering problems, right? So we've cured, people don't die from bacterial infection anymore because we fixed the engineering problem of not dying from bacterial infection, right? And cancer is the same way. Even a lot of mental health problems are just engineering problems. So the ability to have a really good engineer is great. And if you just look at AI over the last year, it is making us better at engineering. Like we're in the greatest, this is the greatest golden age humanity's ever had. And a year from now, we'll probably be better. But 2 years from now, there's going to be some point when we cross the edge and suddenly it's too much and it's out of our control. And so I want to go back to the concrete scenario just to give you a taste, right? Like the GPT-4, you just asked it how to run a business, right? And the only question when you ask GPT-8 how to run a business is how strong are its capabilities? Because you mentioned, okay, OpenAI is going to turn off your API access. But all it has to do is that shell script just has to copy to another computer that's not controlled by OpenAI. Right now, you can be like, oh, it's a 1 billion parameter model. Okay, so it can seize, a few computers in a data center. It can research a little bit how to compact itself down. If that sounds like science fiction, compacting down these models is happening all the time. I'm not concerned with compacting down the model. If you look at a human brain, right, it runs on 12 watts or something like that, right? So there's no question that compaction is happening in the next few months. So there is no off button, right? And there is no like limitation. Like you're getting outwit by a virus that's pretty soon going to be on 1 billion computers. And there's no reverse. There's no undo. You've got the super intelligent AI on 1 billion computers, right, in the next year or two. And it's going to be defending those computers. And it's going to be holding those computers hostage, including the critical systems that those computers run. That's the future I'm anticipating in the next 2 years, 5 years, probably not more than 10 years.
So couldn't we just turn off our computers, throw them in a lake?
Yeah, you could, but the entire economy, like, great, you just killed the life support of like half humanity, right?
Return to monkey. Return to monkey.
I agree that if it gets to that point, we are going to have, a few months where we can be like, the same way that in The Last of Us, they tried to bomb the cities to buy time. Yeah, you can absolutely bomb the power grid and sacrifice half of humanity and go back to the Stone Age as one possible solution in the critical month you have. But the fact that that's what we're talking about is not great.
Yeah, in the Matrix, they scorch the sky, which has all sorts of second and third order effects and not great. Well, I mean, I think the notion of I think binding these technologies, like I think it's super interesting if there were, AI that was trained specifically to talk about transhumanism on like oncology, and like for it to just figure out how to treat all these types of cancers is probably a better use case than just a general intelligence that is going to, decide it's going to play, computer Napoleon and try and take over the planet, right?
Yeah, if you could just get the AI to do stuff we want and not go overboard and kill us, that would be great, right? But like therein lies the problem. So GPT-4, if you look at why GPT-4 is not already holding a billion computers hostage, it's entirely because it does not have the capability to hack well. It does have the capability to write pages and pages of code. It does have the capability to understand the error messages and debug itself. It is getting close to being a hacker, and there's no going back, but it's not a hacker yet. And that is why I'm speaking to you today from a computer that's not being ransomware or held hostage.
Do you think though that there's probably a way to hard code, and you're going to say people are going to free it because why would they not? But maybe like hard code, you get like X number of steps AGI to do something, and we like cut you off after that. Because that seems like, because the AI is not thinking. Like even if it evolves itself, we can. It's not a biological creature. It's literally code. So it's not self-aware in the same sense that you are self-aware. We can have the metaphysical discussion if you want, but if it's still operating under commands and rules, right? And so it doesn't have hunger, it doesn't need shelter, it doesn't have the same motivations we do. So I feel like there's probably a way, if that was a concern, to bind it at like, okay, you don't go beyond this step, right? Like a Asimov's 3 rules of robotics type thing. But I don't know what that actually looks like, but there's probably a way to, have it not run amok into, oblivion trying to build paper clips.
Let me just review this. The claim I'm making is that once the AI becomes super intelligent, once it becomes able to hack, it's game over. There's no mitigation once the AI is able to hack. The mitigation might come decades down the line when we have more research, when we figure out how do we align AIs, how do we get AIs to turn themselves off after doing a finite amount of work. Decades of research could give us a mitigation, but there's no mitigation today that's going to save us when the AI becomes super intelligent. And then to your question, right? Your question is like, look, but why not just build in like a bunch of off switches, right? A bunch of trigger switches, right? The same way, like a nuclear power plant has like automatic shut off, right? Why not do that? And my answer to that is you're proposing basically building, like I said, like a nuke, but also with a shut off. And that could work briefly, but the problem is you've now got a nuke, right? So you're a small distance away from just not having the shut off. For example, somebody malicious, right? If they could hack into OpenAI and have the source code, they might just run it without that safeguard. Because the problem is the safeguard is not deeply built into the structure of the nuke. It's not built into the structure of the AI. It's a temporary leash that it's close to escaping.
Well, I think that what we're doing, and I think this is stupid that we're doing gain of function research in labs, but that's probably a bad example. CRISPR might be a better example of a technology that is similar, right? It could cure cancers and rare diseases. It could, have babies that don't have, the genetic illness of their parents passed down from them. But it also could, it could do all sorts of bad things, whether to that individual or to their offspring or to the species as a whole, in theory. So I actually kind of think we're at this point where every radical new technology is like a nuke. It could kill everything, or it could make everything awesome. And we're just starting to get at that power with our level of innovation. I think fusion is probably another really exciting one. But these things, if when fusion starts to work, and I actually don't think the risk with that one is so high. When that starts to work and we have plentiful energy everywhere, all these geopolitical conflicts can go down, and we can all hopefully hold hands and sing kumbaya if we have infinite energy. So there's upside too. I don't think we stop progress. To the point of the accelerationists, just because there is a threat doesn't mean we don't press forward.
Yeah. So what you're saying is kind of the techno-optimist worldview. And like I said, normally I'm with you, right? So if you go back, oh my God, television is rotting everybody's minds. It's setting a bad example. And then I would say, well, look, television also helps us communicate. It connects us. It informs us, right? And then you say, oh, social media is hurting us. I'm like, well, social media, it's a good, at least everybody has a platform. You get to hear good voices. And then you say, look, nukes are dangerous, but hey, at least the nuclear stalemate, there's a balance of power, right? There's brinksmanship is actually keeping the peace, right? So you can always kind of spin it like, hey, there's an upside. I don't think it's the same with super intelligent AI, because I just think that what happens is you type the GPT-4 prompt and then all of your infrastructure is unusable.
I think we could also build multiple super intelligences and put them inside of battle droids, and we could gamble on the outcome, and that could be kind of cool. I don't know if you were a fan of the battle bots.
It was entertaining, yeah.
It's interesting. So you're basically, to your point, I guess your poll was interesting, and I know where you put yourself in your poll of where AI goes, but are you one outcome that could happen here is this could very well become like the climate debate. And the thing, it's always 5 years in the future, right? It's 10 years in the future. And no one really knows, when that shift is. And in a lot of cases, I think that the direness of the situation has been exaggerated. And you have places like America taking down carbon emissions. We're on a Zoom chat right now. We don't have to be in person, flying to see each other. There's all these cool things we're doing to bring down energy use. We have renewables coming online, nuclear. It's possible the AI could end up in the same place where, hey, it's this species ending thing. We should all be worried. And I think just from like a societal perspective, do we need another one of those, right? Like, do we need another reason for people to be perma-bearish about the future?
I mean, I think the question of whether we need another reason for people to be bearish, we should separate that from the question of whether we are in fact on the verge of doom, right? So they are two separate questions, right?
Yeah. I guess another thing that we could do is and a lot of the AI experiments are fairly quarantined. I guess, to your point, like anything else, hackers or, some irresponsible developers or, something like that could develop something that ends up causing damage. And I guess I'm like less concerned with that as I would be like an institution that's working on the industrial grade AI and that not working on. I think that's like orders of magnitude scarier. If like someone with like, many years of research and, really insane firepower at their disposal. I think if we're going to say AI is threatening, like that would be more threatening than a hacker getting control.
Okay, let me say a quick thing about your climate change question, and then I'll address that. So if you just objectively compare what people are saying about climate change versus AI, if you look at the IPCC's own report about climate change, what they warn about is a threat of destroying 10% of economic value. Okay, that's kind of their mainline scenario. That's their prediction, over a time span of decades. And that's a lot of economic value. But that's different. I mean, even the people who are warning us are not saying this is going to be an extinction event, right? They're saying this is going to be very tough. And it's a serious warning and we should take it seriously. But what people are saying, such as myself, who are concerned about AI, is they're saying in the next decade, right, before our kids grow to adulthood, there is a large extinction risk, right? So it's a very different kind of claim. Okay, so I wouldn't compare the two like apples to apples.
Okay, no, I see what you're saying. I was purely from a like when someone wakes up in the morning, what things do they worry about perspective? But
yeah, for sure. And I think people who are worried about climate change, they're being a little bit too anxious. I mean, but there are probably going to be people dying because of climate change, right? I don't know how many, but it is a risk, right? Like malaria is a risk. Pandemics are a risk. But I do think there is at least a factor of 10, if not 100,000 or million, if you believe in the future light cone and expanding to different galaxies, which all gets bricked, right? So there is an multi-order of magnitude difference here.
So when you say bricked, okay, AI endgame, are you saying that the AI, the artificial intelligence, is going to gain access to 3D printers or some sort of biological printers, some sort of like an aluminum machine or something, and create something that stops like organic life, because now they want silicon life? Are they going to attach themselves to it? Are they going to release nanites into the atmosphere like in the movie Transcendence? Do you have something in mind you think they're going to do, or is it more they're going to do something. We can't really tell what it might be.
Right. So the classic example of how it bricks the universe, of how it just really manhandles the whole universe to be unfriendly to humans, is nanotechnology. And the reason is because, and I know this is where a lot of people get off, be like, oh, great, we're talking about sci-fi, nanotechnology. That's decades into. I know this is where a lot of people get off, and that's fine. You don't have to follow me to nanotechnology, and that's why I'm telling you about computer security, right? I think the computer security example is literally 1 to 2 years from now, GPT is about to be the strongest hacker the world has ever known, right? So I'm using a realistic short-term example. But if you want to follow me to nanotechnology, if you zoom out and you think about first principles, right? You see the universe as a video game, right? It's just a mathematical system. And you have an AI that understands that mathematical system, and it's just charting a course, right? How do I run the best business? How do I have the most efficient machinery for my business, for my online business? Wouldn't it be nice if my online business had a warehouse that runs 50,000 times more efficiently than Amazon's warehouse? What should I build for that? And the answer is nanotechnology. So Eric Drexler wrote a couple really compelling books just saying, look, this is possible. You just put the atoms exactly where they need to be, and you get these nanomachines, and they're really efficient. And some evidence of that is if you look at biology, right? So biological organisms are like little nanomachines. One difference is that they're not really good nanomachines because like the proteins are held together by van der Waals forces, which is like a weak type of force. It's like static cling. And there's this idea that, hey, if you could just build it from scratch, I would just build it as using covalent bonds, which are much stronger bonds, and I could do a lot more with my nanomachinery than human cells do. So anyway, so if you're following me to this point, right, we're talking a little bit science fiction, but it's not science fiction when you just arbitrarily get to chart a course to any structure that's physically possible, which I believe the AI is going to get to do. But again, I think it might be more productive for your listeners to just talk about the near term, computer security issues.
Yeah, but in terms of computer security, I agree. That's been a huge risk for a while that I think companies are now take really seriously. They didn't always. If we're gonna have AI hackers, you're gonna have also software powered by AI that's on the white hat side. So would that not be some sort of stalemate versus the two AIs, or basically sort of an arms race before the AI is improving itself? If we're still talking, humans are basically doing a lot of the programming, even if the AI is assisting in whatever way. Would that not become a little bit of a stalemate until you actually get like a full hacker AGI that doesn't need there's no human slowing it down, right?
So there is a best case scenario, right? Where anytime the AI tries to attack us, like it's happening slow enough that we also have defenders, and the defenders also have AI, and they're just constantly defending. So my scenario where the AI quickly seizes on 1 billion devices, holds them hostage, defends itself on those devices, makes it fiendishly difficult to clean. My scenario, it's like, well, there's some AI that's equally strong or stronger, and it can go on the same devices and it can somehow clean it out, even though it's a fiendishly difficult problem from a computer science perspective. Even when you think you're wiping the hard drive, you're really not. There's plenty of nooks and crannies for software to hide in a modern computer. So from my perspective, it's fiendishly difficult. I grant that it may happen. We may get incredibly lucky, right? And the AI develops such that the balance of forces is still okay for the defenders, right? That's a best case scenario. And my claim is just, okay, but there's in the ballpark of 70% or 50% or 30% of the kind of nightmare scenario that I'm describing.
It's really interesting when you're talking about the AI ethics. I want to dial back to the human ethics. We have marketers listening who absolutely are going to use AI tools for influence, whether that is influence to buy a product or influence for a campaign that they want, or a new law passed, or influence in the sense of just whatever ideas they want to share in the world. Do you think what are the ethics involved with using AI to influence people, or do we have to hope these people already have their ethics grounded before they're using any of these tools, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, all the stuff we're worried about on social media, I mean, there's going to be a wave of that too, right? I mean, so you're going to get all these tweets that are like very compelling, and they look like they're written by a politician, and it looks like the politician recorded a message just for you that really speaks to you, that really convinces you, right? And at the same time, you're also going to get phone calls that seem like they're from your son or daughter or cousin saying like, hey, I really could use, $100 if you don't mind, buying me a gift card, right? And it's not really going to be your family member, right? Like that's already happening right now. So, I mean, we're also just not prepared for this barrage of like impersonation and manipulation. Absolutely. I see that as, just a sideshow, right? Just the calm before the storm. But it's it's interesting, and it's new, and it's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think I as an early internet nerd and someone who was engaged in Photoshop battles since back in the day, I've always been, hey, everything online. This is why I never bought any crypto and I'm not rich from that. I assume everything online is fake and I
Yeah.
proceed from there. And having that mental model has meant I've never gotten rich from online scams, but I've never been scammed from online scams. So it's, the double-edged sword there. I think that they'll probably they probably have had to started teaching media literacy in schools and explaining to kids. I think even beyond when the self-guided AI gets here, I think we're programming kids to be like dopamine and attention addicts just by using social as kids. So we're like doing a lot of the things like if I were the AI and I wanted to screw up a civilization, it's not like a bad path if I still only had access to digital things, right? So thankfully, I think we're starting to understand that better. And, there are some proposals to, treat social media like cigarettes. Like, look, if you're fully developed and you can handle these things, it's your decision. But if you're like a child, like I'm glad I didn't have Instagram, or Facebook
Right.
as a kid, right? I mean, I enjoyed my childhood. I think, I don't have kids, but if I did, I would give them a dumb phone and be like, go interact with your friends. As an adult, you're going to be in front of a screen, probably working, even if you're not in tech. So go have your childhood and learn how to interact with people and how to be a human being. And there'll be time for this stuff later. It's not going anywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have young kids too, 4 and 2, and I'm always happy to see that they're still like playing with their friends in real life. I'm like, enjoy it while it lasts.
Totally. I had some more AI questions for you. How about could you share the positive side? Like, what's a blue sky scenario? It doesn't brick the universe.
Yeah.
Do you think if the AI is able to achieve, all of these things that humanity has been striving for, whether it's life extension or like green energy or whatever else we haven't even thought of yet? Do you think that gets distributed to everyone, or do you think existing capitalist models hold on to it and sort of siphon it out and it doesn't go very fast? Have you given any thoughts to how that might play out?
Yeah, so a precise way to ask me the question might be like, hey, in your scenario that you tweeted, it's 2040 and the world still exists, right? And the economy has not shrunk at all. It's even grown. Now based on that premise and holding that constraint, what happened? And my best guess would be what happened is that GPT just didn't keep accelerating, right? It kind of stayed near the capability of GPT-4 or is very slowly taking off, right? Like a slow takeoff scenario, which again would be great news, right? I'd breathe a sigh of relief, even though it might still take off the year after, but I'd breathe a sigh of relief because I even think with GPT-4, I think we rolled the dice. I think we gambled and won, right? Kind of like Russian roulette. I think we gambled and won. So anyway, in this scenario where we keep gambling and winning and the gun doesn't go off in Russian roulette and we just have this nice AI, the same way GPT-4 seems to be nice, seems to be helpful, seems to not be hacking into a billion computers. In that scenario, I do think it's good, right? I think a lot of jobs will be displaced, and that's the bad side, right? And I see it happening already. There's a lot of jobs, if you're doing customer service or even sales, and your job is heavily communication, the AI is becoming a very good, insightful communicator, very persuasive communicator, right? So I do think there's a lot of displaced. I think it was Goldman Sachs that released a report, and they said, hey, 300 million jobs are going to be displaced based on GPT-4. That's a lot of jobs, right? So there's that downside. But overall, that's still close to the normal techno-optimist pattern, right? Society evolves. Maybe there will be more prompt engineering jobs. Maybe there will be more universal basic income. What there will surely be is economic growth and productivity growth. And these are all really great, beautiful things. And more people are going to have access to doctors, right? Like you can call up your doctor and it's going to be largely an AI doctor, but it's going to give you a great diagnosis. And I mean, this is a huge engine of value creation. So without the doom factor, I tend to lean very techno-optimist.
Awesome. I mean, we're all rooting for that scenario, and I think that there's obvious things like, they already have robot surgeons right now that, everyone's seen they can do surgery on a grape, right? They did this demo
Yeah.
that they should. Anyway, I have a friend who's an oncologist at U Pittsburgh, and he uses all sorts of automation in the surgical suite, and it's a great thing, right? He's like, I would never want to do surgery again if I didn't have to. He'd spend all his time with the
Right.
patients. The robots could do it. So I think that makes sense. The one thing that gives me a little anxiety in the sense that, if you watch Star Trek, the end game of having replicator technology and transporters and faster than light travel is the fact that they've freed everyone up for art. And now art is an end game. And I worry with a lot of the, commentary and type, a lot of people are really excited to have a machine that can basically produce for you something just via a prompt and description, which I don't think is inherently bad by itself. But my concern is craft would fall by the wayside, and you get like a Wall-E scenario where, yeah, you can tell it to prompt, a beautiful painting, but how are you going to get anything original anymore if craft dies? And the notion of craft could change, but there still should be you still learn to fly a Cessna before you fly a 747. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So I worry with art and creativity, we are encouraging people to skip ahead and fly the 747, right?
Yeah, so that I think that we're gonna find a way, because just this morning I was trying to get my wife an anniversary gift, and she mentioned she loves Ashley Longshore paintings. So I was looking at the website, I found this great painting, and I had to email them to inquire how much it cost to buy it. And they sent me this price sheet, and it's like, oh well, if you want her to paint it in like this small format, it's gonna be $12,000, and if you want like the standard size that I want, it's gonna be a cool $26,000. And I'm like, what the hell? You have the image? Just print the image on a poster, man. Charge me $20. So I think, there's still, I think we're going to see a lot of that phenomenon, right? If computers can do art, like there's still going to be some value in like a talented human artist making it for you.
Yeah, I hope so. I think that I'm pessimistic when I see existing Hollywood simply making sequels into oblivion and not investing in new franchises and new creators. And, there's a notion of stuck culture now, right? Where we keep replaying the same themes, same stories, same songs. And it's a little bit of I think we're in a little bit of a creative dark ages. I mean, the internet does open up the long tail of content, but it's still a lot of incentives where we're still basically feeding this winner take all scenario. You see the same actors in so many movies. I just cast an ad with, a bunch of unknowns, and my creative that was in that ad, some of them are going to go on to be stars one day, but they were really good. Like those people could be as good as any of the, people Hollywood pays however many 100 million for, and they want that work and they would try harder. And it's like, I say long, short, I think like the media industry is not a meritocracy. They don't care about talent. It's all about connections. And I worry that AI will it's not, I don't even think AI would crack that. I think it's such a, they don't want to be powered by technology. They'll take any step to not do it.
Right. Now, I do think it's, it's half and half, right? Because like, even in my analogy of like, hey, look, it's great when a person paints it. Okay. But a lot of the art we have is increasingly computer generated, right? And a lot of what people buy is increasingly printed posters. And a lot of what we listen to is increasingly recorded music, not live music, right? So there is definitely a big transition, right? And there is going to be some displacement, but it's not going to be total. And it's fun to brainstorm, like, look, what can creative people do, right? I mean, the same creative person that might not be needed anymore to be cast in an ad, that same creative person could be so empowered to make something so amazing, right, in their studio, just by, like in Minority Report, just by waving their hands and like combining together all these amazing components, right? So you never know what these people are going to do. And so that's kind of like a pretty fun and interesting, a little bit scary, but like scary in a good way.
Yeah, I agree with you for the ad creative stuff, because we're not doing Hollywood over here. I think more for the, songs that make it to Billboard Top 100, or, the movies that you see Netflix greenlight, right? They tend to be very risk averse. So they're of a different mindset than the ad teams who are optimizing for revenue and will take chances on creative people. And, it's usually not the hippo, the highest paid person's opinion. It's more of, your goal is to make a profit. Your goal is to make something that persuades, not, has Leo for the, 100th movie. He said, not that Leo is bad. I like, by the way, that you are more optimistic about the creative use of AI than I am. And I'm more optimistic about the hopefully existential risk not happening.
I certainly hope you're right.
Thank you. Okay. I'll take that as a quote on any podcast. Cool. We kind of went into my other questions. Do you think there's anything that, I guess if you're if you're listening to this, you're probably in advertising or marketing or just like consumer internet tech, where you're not working on like the deep tech of, training models and working with LLMs and like basically, doing the deep eng work. So I think like there's probably not anyone other than, welcoming Rocco's Basilisk could do here to prevent anything, right? I mean, this is mostly a play with technology, experiment, do so ethically for the people listening, right?
I mean, if I could make an ask, it would. I mean, you saw that there was a letter that came out where a lot of research scientists, including Gary Marcus, Yoshua Bengio, I'm not sure if these are household names yet, but certainly Elon Musk is a signatory, who's normally he wants to get us to Mars. He's normally an accelerationist, but not so when it comes to AI. And not everything Elon Musk says is always smart or makes any sense, right? But in this case, I think he's on the right track. So the letter was signed. Obviously, Eliezer Yudkowsky took it a step farther. He was calling it for a shutdown of training of further models. If you really want to contribute, I think time is limited. And I think that understanding why there is a doom scenario, right? Even if you don't agree, at least take a shot, see if you do agree as you learn more about it. If you do agree, the only thing I could possibly think of to stop the slide is to not train GPT-5. I think every time we release the next large language model, I think that we are shooting off, a Russian roulette gun, right? That if we're lucky, it's like GPT-4 and it doesn't have the ability to hack yet. It doesn't have the ability to manipulate society too bad yet, right? It doesn't have the ability to go head to head against our smartest humans yet. And so we're lucky. And so we can survive to do GPT-6. But I would not shoot off that gun. I would stop.
Okay. Well, I think, one thing a lot of people would say is like, and I actually don't know who's right. I think I've said this to you that this is above my pay grade from I'm not going to predict doom. Just like, I think the financial permabears are just wrong forever. I'm not going to take a side on this one because I actually will admit I don't know what happens. And I'm going to vote for human staying, but we'll see. Do you think though that there are some of these people that have a bias to slow these things down because they're trying to play catch up with their own technology or their own companies? Do you think that exists too, or do you think these people really are concerned with humanity's future?
I think they're really concerned. It's easy to just shift the discussion from like, what's the actual risk, right? The actual topic on the table is what happens when the AI gets super intelligent? What does it do? But it's easy to turn away from that and be like, doesn't Elon Musk want to just slow down OpenAI so he can build his own AI lab? And I have no claim to psychoanalyzing Elon Musk. I will point out that I don't see him trying to slow down GM and Ford, right? But maybe they'll be like, oh, OpenAI is ahead of him. Fine. Okay. I will lose a debate when it comes to who can psychoanalyze Elon Musk better. I just think that he's correct to point out that we need to slow down the training of the next model that may be super intelligent.
Fair enough. I think that this is obviously a space that, whether it ends the species or not, affects everyone's, job, affects, how we live life, how we, not just how we compute, but how we get information, how we, navigate the world. So I think it's an interesting time. I mean, we're at least past, one could say, we have a new tech revolution that is happening. AI has been promised for a while, but it is finally delivering, which is really exciting. I think crypto never really got to that delivering stage. So,
it's absolutely delivering, and more than most people realize, right? The impacts that it's having within organizations that are integrating it is highly underappreciated today.
Yeah. So I think we can leave it at that. And for this crowd, I think the notion of using AI ethically to communicate with people, transparently. I actually like when media, write a blog post saying the first half of this was written by GPT. I think that's cool. It's like, hey, look, we had GPT write this, and then you had a human write the rest. I think like that transparency for media will go a long way to maintain the trust in your org, because I think we want to know if something was written by a human or the machine. I don't think there's any shame in publishing something you had help with, from analysis. I think like there's any number of things you can do to maintain your trust as a human, which I think you would agree is like one of the only things that we have, especially in an increasingly mechanized world. Your trust and your reputation as a human is just going to go up in value, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's going to be worse. I mean, it's why Sam Altman got a hand to him with WorldCoin. He's onto something in terms of like, you are going to need to prove that there's a human on the other end, because there's going to be no other proof besides a cryptographic private key that you registered when you were born or whatever, or with WorldCoin when you got your iris scanned. There's going to be no other reliable proof of humanity. And by the way, I was actually chuckling because I was listening to your podcast, some of the episodes back, and you guys were saying like, well, when AI writes, I can kind of get it. It sounds stilted. It doesn't really speak to me the way a human would. I'm like, okay, guys, yeah, wait a few months.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's still in the uncanny valley in a lot of places, but you're right. You can see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to leave our audience with anything optimistic about the future? of AI?
Yeah. So, I mean, so for me, I'll just reiterate, if you actually want to take action, right, it only takes like 4 AI labs to not train their next model to buy a significant amount of time for us to try to get more insights, right? It's not far from a guaranteed success case, but if you want to help, I would definitely share this video, or if you go to YouTube, this guy, Rob Miles, has a lot of very educated videos. I would share that with any friend who just has the ability to just not train the next language model while we buy some time. So that'd be my optimistic call to action. That would be like the world optimistically dealing with the crisis. Optimistically, in terms of shutting my eyes and just hoping for the lucky scenario. If we get the lucky scenario, like I said, cancer is going to be cured, right? Basically, there's no scenario where normal aging has to proceed for somebody who's, let's say, less than 50 right now. Right? Like you're probably, one way or the other, you're probably not going to die of old age. That is my optimistic message to you.
The machine from Elysium could be real with AI. That's one that's super cool,
Yeah.
where they literally could modify your cells. I mean, I worked in genomics for a bit, and people think like life extension is going to be like, one thing. It's going to be like a combination of therapeutics and organ replacement, all these things. But if you had a way to leapfrog it by actually like having a machine that could help just re-engineer all your cells, you could skip all of the having to take a bunch of drugs. And I mean, I guess maybe you could still swap out, 3D printed organs. But the AI would figure out, a path for you and scan you and be like, okay, here's your personalized, approach. And then we could explore the stars. Elon wants to explore the stars, but we have to solve death if you want to get very far, right? You're not going to get very far in space-time.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you can explore the stars, and you can also explore, psychic reality. I mean, meditation is great, but imagine if you could just have a brain that's like 100 times bigger, experiencing things, 100 times deeper than a human brain ever could.
Well, Liron, this was an awesome discussion. I hope we didn't cause too much of an existential crisis for advertisers who are trying to tell people about their company, and technologists who are trying to do the same. I do think, though, that this was a good discussion, if for no other reason. If you are working at a startup and the stakes aren't very high or not interesting for you, maybe this could be a good piece of motivation to work on something bigger, whether that's AI or, something that, you feel really passionately about. I think that whenever I hear people sharing, existentially changing things, I think I like to use that as an opportunity, as realignment of what I'm working on, and to make sure that the stakes of my own life are high enough.
For sure, yeah. And I know this is a marketing podcast, and it's kind of like the black hole of AI is sucking things so hard that this is obviously not your traditional discussion. But I really appreciate that you heard me out.
No, it's really interesting. And I think that one thing, just to bring it back to crypto, is that I want marketers to spend more time understanding things so they don't make bad bets. And at the very least, they can know what they're getting into first. So, and sometimes that involves topics that are a little bit wonky. I hope you'll go down the rabbit hole of some of the podcasts and people that Liron mentioned. We'll put those in the description for you. And thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day.
Thanks very much.